Well, hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. I'm going to talk fast because I need to watch Star Trek today desperately, which is good news because we're watching the original series, Season 2, Episode 19, A Private Little War. Loved everything about Season 2, friends, and good, bad, or alternative factor, I've loved everything about this series. Before we get started, if you could do me a huge favor and hit that like button, smash that subscribe, ring that bell for notifications. It greatly helps out the channel, and it allows me to alert you next time we go live with Star Trek or any of our sci-fi fare. And if there's any of that sci-fi fare that you would like early or in its full-length format, the link to our Patreon is in the description, my friends. But all that is then. This is now, and now it's time for some catharsis, some healing therapy with Star Trek, the original series. Prepare to engage maximum warp reaction, and away we go. Look at that beauty. Hey, Plum.
Yes, Jim.
How much longer, McCoy? Any problems there?
No sign of the inhabitants so far. Kirk out.
I'm ending this call.
It's the Mugatu. No problem, though. Those prints are...
Aside from that, you say it's a Garden of Eden.
Or so it seems with the brash young Lieutenant Kirk in command of his first planet survey.
I know what a Mugatu is. I've seen Lower Decks.
And tranquil.
Oh, take cover here.
Uh-oh. Is that a red shirt being murdered?
Bows and arrows, Captain.
Villagers with flintlocks. That's impossible. They hadn't progressed nearly that far.
Yeah, it looks like they have.
One of those men walking into ambush is Tyree, the friend I lived with here.
Oh, boy.
Captain, use of our phasers is expressly forbidden.
Prime directive. Use of anything interfering is right.
Villagers!
Bones, pick up your dirt. We're leaving. Jacques! Start the plane, Jacques! Oh my God!
Spock.
It went through and through.
No, Captain. I can travel.
Dear God, Spock.
Now, Scotty, have medics stand by.
All right, Jim's going to tell us about the Final Frontier. Heck of a start. Now, my shocked expression came from what is my new habit of reverse engineering Easter eggs. I've watched Lower Decks, so a lot of the Easter eggs that are in there that somebody that would have watched, I guess, all of the Star Trek properties would appreciate. I find I appreciate by having them kind of introduced in Lower Decks and then seeing something that reminds me of Lower Decks. The Mugatu is something that appears in Lower Decks that I have experienced before. So seeing this back now is really, really fun. I really enjoy this. I don't know. I'm assuming we're going to see a Mugatu, but, and again, I don't think it ruins anything, you know. In fact, I'm more excited, I think, than I would be if I just heard a generic term that didn't mean anything. Mugatu means something, and I like it quite a bit. Really good start, too. We've got some type of, you know, armed conflict on the surface with tech that they didn't expect to have, and a through and through on Spock, which is crazy.
Primitive firearm.
What do we have here? Oh, Gene Roddenberry. And Mr. Mark Daniels.
Kirk here.
Uhura, sir. We have a Klingon vessel on our screen.
On my way.
Oh, shit. Here we go.
I don't know yet, Jim.
Whew. That chokes me up every time.
I don't think they've spotted us.
Make that definite, sir. They're sending a routine message to their home base, no mention of us.
Good. Go to yellow alert.
Really? You're going off red?
Kirk to sick bay.
McCoy here. I'll call you as soon as I know anything. Sick bay out.
See, I love that. It's his friend down there.
I left there 13 years ago, those villagers had barely learned to forge iron.
And sir, the fact Earth took 12 centuries doesn't mean they had to.
We've seen development at different rates on different planets.
13 years, though?
They get on breech loaders.
Or machine guns.
Or old-style
I
hand
did not
lasers.
invite a debate.
I am the captain.
I'm sorry.
He's worked up because of Spock, everybody.
You have the con, Scotty. I'll be at sickbay.
Listen, Jim doesn't do real well with stuff that he can't control or he can't affect change to. And so it's such a great character trait, that Bill Shatner has really, and the writers too have done a real good job to enhance.
He'll live or die now, Joe. I don't know which.
Well, isn't that all of us, Bones?
Dr. Mabinga interned in the Vulcan ward. He couldn't be in better hands.
Is that Mbenga from Strange New Worlds?
And I need help. Advice I can trust as much as Spock's. If the Klingons are breaking the treaty, it could be interstellar war.
Wow. So we've established that the stakes are high.
We may have to break out of orbit any minute to keep out of their sight. We'd be out of communicator range with you.
I must take action on my own judgment. I have elected to violate orders and make contact with planet inhabitants here.
Starfleet's orders about this planet state no interference with...
No interference with normal social development. I'm not only aware of it, it was my survey 13 years ago that recommended it.
Inhabitants superior in many ways to humans. Left alone, they undoubtedly someday will develop a remarkably advanced and peaceful culture.
Nice. I like that.
You coming with me?
Do I have a choice?
Well, I don't know, Plum. You want to wander off by yourself and get shot? I mean... Oh my God, that scared the shit out of me. That Megado actually looks pretty good. Oh, he's biting the shit out of him. See ya. Damn, Jim is absolutely messed up.
Enterprise, McCoy, emergency, come in. Enterprise.
Oh, Jesus, they're gone. Come on, do some of that doctoring shit, Plum.
Emogatu attacked him. He's James Kirk. He's a friend of Tyree's.
I mean, what's going on here? This is definitely the Vasquez Natural Resource Park. It has to be. I think I remember this from Shore Leave.
I've learned the Hunter Tyree is now their leader. He is expected to return shortly with his wife, who they say knows how to cure this poison.
Oh, thank God.
I must keep him warm and alive until then.
Do some of that doctoring shit, Plum. I like it. I like the setup. I like everything about this.
I am a Kanutu woman. In all this land, how many are there? Men seek us because through us they become great leaders. And I have spells that help me keep you. Remember this leaf?
It's cocaine.
The Night of Madness.
Oh. The Night of Madness? Okay, so I'm wondering. You've got a lot of dark-haired, antagonists. I'm wondering if they're like Klingons in disguise.
Forgive me.
Forgive me.
It is said the dying one is a friend of Tyree from long ago.
That one.
Gotta keep sniffing this cocaine leaf. Is it wrong for me to, honest to God, I mean this, they gave Bill Shatner a break in this episode. They're like, Bill, you've been memorizing a lot. We're going to put you under a fur blanket. Just lay there. Look at that. That old trick we learned from Sulu.
I gave him my promise of silence. He was made my brother.
And I am your wife, his sister. I promise silence also.
Ah, semantics. Or I should say, logic by relation. Listen, there are a lot of hints in the original series that Christine and Spock had something going on there. See, there's a lot of hints.
It's a way of concentrating all their strength, blood, and antibodies onto the injured organs. A form of self-induced hypnosis. He knows we're here and what we're saying, but he can't afford to take his mind from the tissue he's fighting to heal.
So he knows that you just grabbed his hand, Christine.
I suppose he even knows you were holding his hand.
Ah!
What's that?
A mako root.
It's shit. Plum's like, what? What? Huh, what is going on?
This is my soul.
We have a lot of like witch type of shit that happens in this too, you know? I wonder if like the kind of glittery tattoo stuff means something. I always wonder that when they like the aesthetics of the alien cultures, if they mean like rank or like it's a birthmark or something.
Oh.
Come on, Jim. Stop acting like this is the first time you've woken up beside someone you don't know.
Tired. Very tired.
With shit on your chest.
I want to thank you for saving his life.
And she's healed. That's pretty cool.
He is mine now.
She was asleep also.
What does that mean?
When a man and woman are joined in this manner, he can refuse her no wish.
Really? So Jim's gonna have to do whatever she asks? Plum's like, I don't know what to be mad about first. I have so many things I want to be a contrarian against.
What are you doing?
Sweet Jesus.
Tyree. My old friend.
Yes, James. James, it's good to see you.
I love it.
Hakanutu is the local witch people here. They've studied...
We're aware. Plum's already caught up.
Much has happened since you left, James. Come, we'll speak of it.
I love that he calls him James. It's so cool.
This is Dr. Mbenga. There will be someone with you constantly now. When the time comes, I'll be called. If he speaks, do whatever he says.
Do whatever he says?
Yes. Well, that's clear enough, isn't it?
I really like the idea that they have, because they've always talked about having other doctors underneath McCoy, but actually having Mbenga there is awesome.
Can you take us to their village while it's still dark?
Yes. But the Mugatos travel at night also. You killed one.
Oh, great.
We're simply strangers
From one of the lights in the sky.
Yeah, she's up to speed.
We learned from this to make a rule during all our travels. Never to cause the same to happen to other worlds. Just as a man must grow in his own way and in his own time.
Some men never grow.
I love that description of the Prime Directive. That's really cool.
I said I will not kill!
We must fight or die. Is dying better?
I mean, he is all in on tranquility and peace. I love it. It's got to be the Klingons.
Then he has the wrong friends. I have the wrong husband.
Damn. I knew that was coming, but still, damn.
You will help in ways she does not understand. I have faith in our friendship, James.
Ooh, oh my God. The friendship of this guy who saved your life, who's sacrificing his marriage versus the Prime Directive. Jim, every day's just a hoot, isn't it?
If we find the Klingons have helped the villagers, there's certainly something we can do.
That's what's bothering me.
He doesn't want to do it. This is a real sticky situation because they're interfering, presumably the Klingons are interfering. What do, you know?
Supposing you had to fight, what then?
Jim, this man believes in the same thing we believe in, that killing is stupid and useless.
This show is so fantastic. I mean, oh my God. I love it. Chop. No, he's going for a sleeper.
You are late, my friend Othello.
Othello is apparently getting high.
A way to shoot further and straighter.
So what's the benefit for the Klingons to do this?
Coal for forge, sulfur for gunpowder.
Find me a length of bamboo. I know what to do with that.
You will be rich one day, Apella. Beyond your dreams. The leader of a whole world. A governor.
Jesus, Plum. That's a rookie mistake. Oh! Double hand punch. Well, hey, guys. That was messy. Hit that. I kind of liked it, though.
Hit me. The pain will help me to consciousness. Hit me.
Hit you? No, I can't.
Blast you. Strike me. If I don't regain consciousness soon, it may be too late. Hit me. Again. Continue. The pain will help me to consciousness.
Hit me. Oh, we're getting some stage slaps here. I got it. Thank you.
That will be quite enough.
This is the hammer. The hammer striking the pan causes a spark, ignites the powder, and fires the flintlock.
Oh, see, I mean, I don't know what's the right way to do this, everybody? Do you just, it's like you're into like an arms race if you arm them.
Hold your breath and squeeze the trigger gently.
Nice shooting, Tex.
Your turn.
Oh, man, Tyree is not down with this.
Each side receives the same knowledge and the same type of firearm.
Have you gone out of your mind? Yes, maybe you have. Is it a coincidence this is exactly what she wants?
Is it? She wants superior weapons. It's the one thing neither side can have. Bones.
Bones.
If this planet is to develop in the way it should, we must equalize both sides again.
No, because it's just an arms race then.
It could go on for year after year, massacre after massacre.
All right, Doctor.
Ooh. That was great line delivery.
Sensible solution to all this.
I don't have a solution. But furnishing them firearms is certainly not the answer.
Plum never has an answer. He just doesn't like your answer.
Two giant powers involved, much like the Klingons and ourselves. Neither side felt that they could pull out.
Yes, I remember. It went on bloody year after bloody year.
Well, what would you have suggested? Balance of power.
And if the Klingons give their side even more?
And we arm our side with exactly that much more.
No, I mean, come on.
The trickiest, most difficult, dirtiest game of them all, but the only one that preserves both sides.
And what about your friend Tyree? Will he understand this balance of power?
He doesn't want that. I don't have an answer either. I'm just like Plum. I'm not sure what you do here. Unless you can take the guns from the other side, I don't know what you do. And that's right up against the Klingons then.
War isn't a good life, but it's life.
I don't know. Okay, well, we're back in orbit now, so. I'm still shocked by how good that Mugado looked.
No. Pardon me.
You are here because I wished you here.
No.
Can you smell this fragrance? Some find it pleasing.
I would like to talk to you.
Again.
You get that cocaine leaf out of my face.
Happy.
Man, he's going to think that you're like two-timing with his wife and his drugs. You're taking his wife and his drugs. Whew. Jim, this doesn't look good. Wife, are you drugging with my friend James? Are you doing the drug?
Yes, you are lovely.
Oh, boy. Oh.
Kiss me.
Fight it, Jim. Do it for Tyree. But Bill says I'm kissing. That's cool. that shows the level of conviction of Tyree that he wouldn't even think about shooting somebody in that situation. Like he's that devoted to peace and nonviolence. I actually really like that. Oh. There's another Mugado. Jim, are you gonna like... I mean, if she gets bit, there's nobody to do the turd root spell. I mean, she might be a bit manipulative, but she certainly doesn't deserve death by Mugado. See ya!
I left it there. It's a fine thing to leave lying around. Show us where it is.
Let's go all the way back. There we will find James bludgeoned by the rock.
I do not want it.
I like that. I actually really like the Tyree character. Is she barefoot? Boy, that'd be... I think she is, right? She doesn't have like flats or... Man, oh man, that's a tough ask right there.
I bring you victory for Apella. Take me to him. He will have the strength to use this new weapon.
Just don't turn it around the wrong way.
Touch me again, and this small box will kill you.
Okay. Is he biting or kissing her?
No, I'm all right.
These 16 aspirin should do it.
Weapon I bring you is far greater than your fire stick.
Dear God, this is, I mean... Nuna, light him up. I mean, you got yourself into this mess, but... Wow. Guys, get in there.
It's a trap. The woman's tricked us.
Oh, shit! Okay, Bones is all right. Come on, James. Presumably, everybody just learned how to fight within the last 13 years. You've got him. Ooh. I think Tyree got his guy. As he's beating him to death with a rock. No, yeah, not the way. Not the way, bud. Not the way. I hope he didn't kill him. This poor guy. He definitely lost his wife because Bones didn't try to administer any type of first aid. Ah. I mean, she had her flaws, but I mean, that's his wife. And she saved James. And I like the character.
I want more of these, Kirk. Many more. I will kill them.
Man, destroyed paradise. I don't understand for what? Just so they can have the planet? Bones said like the soil was good for like medicine and stuff. I guess that's the draw. Like it's got...
Spock, are you alive?
An illogical question, Doctor, since obviously you are hearing my voice.
Well, I don't know why I was worried. You can't kill a computer.
We have proven that wrong.
Didn't get that exactly, Captain. 100, what?
100 serpents. Serpents for the Garden of Eden. We're very tired, Mr. Spock. Beam us up home.
Wow, this is a loss, everybody. Great leave line. This is a loss in my book. All right, everybody, we just got done watching Star Trek, the original series, Season 2, Episode 19, A Private Little War, and the only thing left to do is to talk about it. All right, friends, just got done watching Star Trek, the original series, Season 2, Episode 19, A Private Little War. Said it there at the end, and let's talk about it a little bit. This is a loss. This is an absolute loss for Jim and the Enterprise and everybody. I mean, there was no victory, there was no measure, there was no points being, the Klingons, the Klingons won this one 100%. Now you can say, well, they didn't get the planet, the villagers are now going to have a real fight on their hands. Yeah, but destabilization and all this stuff. The Klingons are going to come back. They're going to see that the other side was armed with flintlocks. They're going to give them machine guns. It's an absolute arms race at this point. If they really want that planet, they're not stopping at flintlocks. They don't have the prime directive to have to work around. They're just trying to acquire planets for the Empire. Oh man, I don't know. I mean, it's a tough one because Okay, so here's a couple things to think about. Nuna, when she performed, with the poop root and all that stuff, and took the Magado's poison, a sentence, a sentence I never thought I would say in my life. When Jim had the poop root take out the Magado poison. Oh, Jesus. So anywho, with Nuna's character, I thought that it was interesting that, when she performed her air quote magic or the healing ritual that she did, which obviously there's something to that. Her hand healed, Jim healed. I think the writer gave an out to Jim's kind of early behavior by saying that, and especially by having McCoy bring it up, this is exactly what she wanted. You're acting the way that Nuna wanted you to act. Maybe she's got you under her spell. And to the point where Jim's like, okay, let's assume that she does. The problem with all that is that you don't want to take agency away from Jim in a moment like this. And as soon as everything is kind of, I don't know, she's dead and everything's kind of rectified as far as the earlier healing or magic or whatever you want to call it, Jim sticks to his guns. Jim is literally sticks to his guns. And he is, he follows through with it. He give him 100 serpents for the Garden of Eden. Compounding that, I think it was a really interesting touch to have Jim have an earlier involvement as part of like the survey team that came to look at this planet initially and meeting the populace and stuff like that. That's really cool to me. And it's really cool. I always like throwbacks to Jim's earlier, like the Farragut and stuff like that we had before. Learning more about Jim's past is fascinating to me. I read a comment that said, could be a great series that is basically just like Jim before he gets to the Enterprise. I agree that there are some vastly unexplored stories in there, but I think that it's better suited as part of our imaginative design for his history as opposed to actually seeing it. I felt that way very much for like the prequels of Star Wars. If you're a fan of the prequels, that's super cool. I have plenty of friends who are super fans of the prequels, and I don't hate the prequels of Star Wars. A lot of people get really, really worked up about it, and that's cool if you don't like them, and I understand. But as part of the explanation for Star Trek here, let's use that as an example. To me, even though I enjoyed some of the visuals and everything that were presented by the prequels of Star Wars, I think that the established history that I had in my head of the how Darth Vader came to be, what happened in the Clone Wars, it's just kind of myth and just like, almost like cave drawings on a wall. You can see and are told like the broad strokes of what happened, but you don't know exactly, and your mind kind of fills all that stuff in. I think of Jim Kirk's earlier years as something like that. Again, it's like if in showing these types of things and it builds up Kirk's presence as well as his past. And I think that this is where the two came to a head. He had a very favorable, glowing Garden of Eden view of this planet from his past. His friend, Tyree, someone that was not going to, allow violence. It was going to grow up tranquil. It was going to be in Eden. It was the survey results that they had come up with said that they're such quick learners that very rapidly they're going to grow into this incredibly advanced and tranquil civilization. Well, the Klingons fucked that all up. And you know what? To be very fair, it's, you're putting a lot of stuff on the Klingons too here. And yes, they were the instigators. Yes, they were the problems in all of this. But could it have happened? I mean, it's not like the Klingons were in there and really kind of pressing their thumbs apart every aspect of the planet. They provided weapons. It didn't seem like it was that hard of a nudge to get the villagers to use those weapons on the hill folk. So, it's you can say that it probably was an unsteady peace as far as this tranquility, this evolution of peace. But again, they were on that path, and so the path hadn't been diverted yet until the Klingons got there. But the bottom line with all this is it was a loss. It was a loss for Jim. Jim, he lost a measure of himself. He lost a measure of his past. This fond memory is forever soiled. One of his earliest missions, one of these friends that he made along the way that he genuinely seemed to care for in Tyree. He genuinely wanted this planet to achieve that promised future that the report gave of this peaceful evolution. But alas, he didn't get it. And this was a definite loss. In fact, I struggle to think of what was one victory in this episode for the crew. Not getting into actual conflict with the Klingons, maybe that's the only measure of victory that can be shown here. Spock lives. you know, but Spock got shot. You know, Spock living kind of just balances the scale back to status quo. I don't know. We got to see Mbenga, which I think is awesome. But again, you know, it's like as far as the advancement of Starfleet and the Federation's, you know, mandate, and basically the tallying, you know, the wins and losses of the Enterprise. This goes in the L column. I cannot see it going any other way. And you know, it's an awful situation because there was no again when this is my point for all of this. When Kirk got mad at McCoy and basically said, well, you know what's your fucking solution then? McCoy's like, I don't have one, you know, but I know this is wrong, but I don't have one. I felt the same way. I felt just like Plum. I know that this is wrong. I know that this can't be done. This is stupid. Why the fuck are we doing this? I have no other suggestions for you other than taking, and again, the logic dictates, even if you were to like take all of the flintlocks off the planet and like kind of throw them back to the way they were before, the knowledge exists. They're being told how to make them. You know, they probably would have cruder materials initially. But we talked about it. When the Klingons come back, they're going to be like, what do you, somebody took all of your guns? Well, don't worry about it. Here's a bunch more. And what is it? You're going to just keep coming back and taking them away. You know, and that's going to F up the, you know, regular growth of the civilization anyway. So it was an absolutely damned if you do, damned if you don't decision. And one I do not envy. And we joke about it a lot. It's a decision that Jim unfortunately has to face numerous times throughout the course of this series. I don't know though. I mean, it's a bummer. This was a bummer. I thought it was a really solid, really good episode, but I think it's a bummer, you know, because we just did not get any type of resolution that favored the Enterprise or favored Jim. This was a loss across the board, and you rarely see them take an L, and they did in this episode, friends. Whew. But you know what? There's always more to learn. There's always more to learn behind the scenes. Maybe there was a last minute change in the script from a positive ending to the ending that we received. Who knows? But there is somebody that knows. In fact, we could probably ask Q, but I've been told that he's been replaced. I'm going to give this a shot. General? Greetings and salutations, my friends. 'Tis I, the great tactician, the leader of men, the lover of women, and the best friend of Jim Kirk, General Trelane. Retired. Friends, this is where, having watched and reacted to an original series episode, I'd like to go back and find out what went on behind the camera. Things that, if I had looked it up before watching and reacting, would have ruined the episode for me. But to keep myself from talking for 3 hours or wandering off into the weeds, I've given myself 5 distinct categories which to approach. 1, writer and director. Who were they? 2, guest stars. Did we have any? 3, of the core cast or the Big 8, who was present? 4, and the juiciest of all the categories, production notes. What went on behind the camera? And 5th, last but certainly not least, a memorable quote from this episode. Let's get started. All right, everybody, for our first category, writer and director, who were they? Well, it's easier said than done with this one, friends. We had some definite script problems. So first off, who wrote this story? I can't answer that, but I will tell you what they told me. The teleplay is by Gene Roddenberry, and the actual story is by Jude Crucis. Now, friends, Jude Crucis is not a real name. It is a made-up name. We'll get more about all of this down in production notes. But this was actually written story-wise. The story was provided by Don Ingalls, who we remember fondly from The Alternative Factor. The director of this episode, much more on that. The director of this episode is Mark Daniels, my friends. Now, Mark Daniels, we do know that Joseph Pevney's not going to be around anymore. His last episode was already directed, and he ended with 14. And we were told during that moment that he ends up tying Mark Daniels for 14 episodes of the original series directed. So, right now with Mark Daniels, this episode, A Private Little War, is either 11 or 12. It's 11 if they count the menagerie as one directorial effort. It's 12 if they count the menagerie, both parts, as 2 directorial efforts. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I lean towards it only being 1, but we'll see what happens, my friends. Let's move on. All right, everybody, and for our second category, guest stars, did we have any? We sure did, so let's get into them. The first one was Nancy Kovac as Nona. We had Michael Whitney as Tyree. We had Ned Romero as the Klingon Krell. We had Booker Bradshaw as Mbenga. More on Booker down in production notes. And we had Janos Prohaska as the Gamato. Let's move on. All right, everyone, for our third category, or the core cast, the Big Eight, who appeared. Well, first off, as we always do, let's recap the Big Eight. The Big Eight are Kirk, McCoy, Spock, Sulu, Scotty, and Uhura, and for season 2, we added Chekhov and Nurse Chapel. Everybody appears, except once again, George Takei does not, as Sulu is away filming the Green Berets with John Wayne. Let's move on. All right, friends, and now for our fourth category, the spiciest of the category, the production notes. What went on behind the camera? And as we often say, the story behind the camera, especially for this one, might be more interesting than the one that appeared in front of the camera, even though I really liked A Private Little War. Let's get started. All right, friends, and for our first production note, let's start with some easy ones, some lighthearted ones, so to speak, okay? Even though the script gives the planet's name as Neural, and the script gives the Klingon's name as Krell, neither identifier were used in the actual production. For whatever reason, we just kind of brushed past the names of the planet and the lead Klingon adversary. Interesting stuff, but definitely more that we'll touch on in production notes down below. Let's continue. Okay, friends, and for our second production note, this episode was intended to be a commentary on the Vietnam War. Absolutely, the escalation, the providing of arms from the Soviet Union and Communist China to the North Vietnamese, and the same thing as the providing of arms by America and allies to the South Vietnamese. More on that in just a little bit, but let's keep in mind that this was actually and absolutely made and written to be a comparative for the Vietnam War. Let's move on. All right, and for our next production note, my friends, this is the only episode in season 2, the only one that doesn't end with happy music. Again, we speculated during the reaction that this was a loss. This was definitely a loss by the Enterprise and Jim and crew. It was something that, you can't really consider this a win in any measure. And the music was reflective of that. So again, just a tip of the cap to all of the creative team for making sure that every aspect of this, every aspect of each episode is reflective of the story that they're telling. Great, great stuff, friends. Let's move on. And now for our next production note, my friends, this episode marks the first appearance of 2 appearances for Booker Bradshaw as Dr. Joseph Mbenga. I can't wait to see the next one. They gave me the title and I omitted it from here so I could kind of forget. I'd be surprised whenever he appears again. But I really like the idea. You know how much I love the serialized elements and the idea that we could have an NPC, like a supporting character returning. Great, great stuff. And I am looking forward to it. Let's move on to the last production note. All right, my friends. So as you've guessed, there were script problems for this one. And with our last production note, here's what ends up happening. So the original story was written by Don Ingalls, who's the writer that also did The Alternative Factor, though we won't hold that against him. Apparently, in his original treatment for this episode, there were way more allusions to the Vietnam War. Way, way more. The comparatives were incredibly overt, and it was repetitive. There was kind of a hammering home of how basically, this was a lose-lose situation for everyone. And unfortunately, depending upon how you look at it, I don't know if it would have been a stronger episode with those elements, or we would have, as an audience, would have felt more force-fed. I'm not sure. I would have had to have actually seen the episode produced to be able to make that comparison. Gene Roddenberry apparently thought so. And so Gene Roddenberry, when he got a hold of the script, at this point, I don't think that Gene Kuhn was around anymore to kind of hand it off to. So Gene Roddenberry took it upon himself to rewrite a lot of Don's script. Don was not real happy with that, to the point where he told Gene, take my name off the script, and I want you to put Jude Crucis on there, which is it's a thinly veiled nickname for Jesus crucified. Dramatic, Don, but again, I guess that was the extent with how much he was opposed to the changes that were made and the idea that his vision of telling this story that was a mirror for the Vietnam War wouldn't come out in its entirety. He was upset. He had his name taken off of it. And to this day, it does not appear there. Interesting stuff, friends. Let's move on to a memorable quote. And last but certainly not least, friends, our memorable quote from this episode. I wanted to get something that encompassed, there was the great ones about, all these things, coming into the Garden of Eden, snakes instead of flintlocks. Really good quotes in there. But I thought this one basically summed up Don's original intent for this episode and what we ended up getting. It was sort of a surface quote for both potential versions. This is the exchange between Jim and McCoy. And Jim says, well, war isn't a good life, but it's life. And I think that's the only way to sum up this episode. Jim had no real way to make this work except what he did and hoped somehow that it would just get better. Friends, thus ends another installment of Q&A, and I, General Trelane retired, will await our next meeting. Until such time, behave.